All right, welcome back. This is the nation's #1 talk news and sports radio station. We're broadcasting live from our audiovisual studios right here in Itimian Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. I did promise that we will be having the special advisor to Mr. Governor Sanwo-Olu on climate change in the studio with us today to talk about. I mean, I'm sure when people hear climate change, what's this? What's climate change? What's this now? Have we finished clearing the gutter? We're talking climate change. Anyway, she's here in the studio to demystify, the things around. But most importantly, she was at the COP29 in Azerbaijan, and she was one of the speakers at that event. So we're going to be talking about the fallout of that event. The reason why Lagos is keying into the whole climate change strategy. What is the Lagos strategy? How are we pivoting to join the rest of the world on that platform? This is why she's here in the studio. My guest is the special advisor to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on climate change and circular economy, Titilayo Oshodi. It's so good to have you join us in the studio. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming on time.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Great. First and foremost, because the truth is Nigerians are wondering what climate change is Lagos doing. I was at the waterfront yesterday and it was a disaster. It was stinky. I was yabbing Lagos some days ago that where I'm from, by this time it's cool air. The heat is going to reduce because we've got a lot of trees, but Lagos doesn't have that. Are we planning to plant trees? But let's start by saying, letting people understand what your office is all about.
So it's a great thing that the indicators are essentially what you're, beginning to enumerate. And, if we're going to flip things around, what climate change is are those symptoms that you've talked about, the heat, the erratic weather symptoms, when we're supposed to be having the cool, dry feeling right now from Harmattan, but it's not the case. You go to the coastal sides and there's a lot of dirt, so that is a culmination of the effect of the imbalance and the disproportionate use of what is causing our carbon emission that is also shifting around, the weather and all of the seasons that we're supposed to be experiencing at the time that we're supposed to experience them. So in short, climate change is the disproportionate or the imbalance of weathers and season. And I must let you know, and one of the things that we have started to drive is to help people to understand that even though it may seem like an abstract phenomenon, it is very, very tangible. And there are so many ways that we can begin to capture the tangibility of it. Number one, how do we dispose of our waste? You see, those things that we dispose in terms of our plastics, our paper, the organic waste, even these telephones and our radio and our TV,
even hospital waste,
even our hospital waste, even our textile, all of those things from our own side of town, from Nigeria or from Africa, have all become components of carbon emission, but more from the manufacturing, industrialized economies, like the large-sized, the global north, the industrialized ones, all of the manufacturing waste, the construction waste, the chemical waste, all of those things have become the bane of the proponents of why we have this imbalance and the distortion of our seasons, of our atmosphere. And so we have captured it as into what we're explaining right now, this philosophy as climate change and the impact of it. Now, the impact also goes a long way, and that is where we can begin to measure the tangibility. How does it affect your health? How does it affect food? Because these are things that are connected to soil. They're connected to the ground. They're connected to our environment, So if you're not feeling too well, and you have extreme heat, or there's a huge level of flooding around you, you cannot be in a well state of mind. You cannot be in a good state of mind. If there is flooding, it would affect the soil, it would affect agriculture, it would affect supply of food, then there is going to be famine. There is going to be, inflation, because as soon as all of those things are affected, that means demand, will be affected. Supply will be affected, and it would affect demand. Transportation will be affected if there's flooding. So how do we connect all of this together? And that's what the Conference of Parties is about on a yearly basis. The industrialized communities, the industrialized governments are saying we're being affected. There are things that are happening that we have no control over. Even though we have access to resources, it is one and the same planet that we are all living in. How can we begin to help each other to help our planet heal so that the right seasons can come and the right times, and we can also have the ripple effect on soil, on our environment, so that we can begin to be resilient. We can adapt ourselves to these changes and possibly establish a reoccurrence or a recalibration of this process again.
I'm very curious about what Lagos' strategy is, and I'm asking about Lagos because this is your, this is where you do your business. And like we stated earlier, waste disposal is a huge problem. And there's no how you do this without working with the Ministry of Environment. There has to be a collaboration or a handshake across the table. What is the Lagos strategy before we even start talking about your partnerships and the financing that you're looking to get to be able to, work on your strategy?
So, the Ministry of Environment has been doing a lot in terms of helping the people to understand where those black spots, those areas that are, deepening, that are contributing massively to the situation that we're experiencing. One of the big ones is flooding, and we clearly know that the reason why there's so much extreme flooding is because of the drainages that are being blocked. What is causing the blockage of these drainages? It's the waste, the plastics, the PET bottles, the sachets of, clothing, organic food or organic waste that comes from our community. And because we have not imbibed that right climate-friendly attitude, to responsibly dispose of our waste, they go into the gutters, they end up into the pipelines, into the oceans, and all of the flooding, when the rains come, they begin to enter into those nooks and crannies, and they're not able to flow effectively. So what happens? The overflow of it gets onto the roads, it affects transportation, it affects the movement of people. People are not as productive as they should be because you're spending at least 3-4 hours on the road before you get to your destination. We have buildings that have been built over drainages, over areas that water should easily flow through, and there are so many manufacturers and producers as well in the line of building economic activity and also being able to create some level of employment and job for themselves, who also go into chemical production of items and products that are not particularly climate friendly. They don't dissolve or they do not degenerate easily, and these are the styrofoams. So the government and through the Ministry of Environment have picked out these things, these areas, and said we need to start to develop some level of enforcement.
When?
They've started that, so we have a ban on styrofoam right now.
Yeah, I know about the ban.
That had happened about a year ago, and they'd given producers and manufacturers a year moratorium, through a process of that stakeholder engagement to be able to say that you need to clear out, what it is that you have produced over a period of time, because there's going to be an enforcement on that ban. And clearly that has, started to work, because that conversations and those agreements, if you say, negotiations and agreements are in play. And the producers are becoming more and more, predisposed to the idea, because it's not only affecting the roads or the drainages, but it's also affecting our health. These are things that are chemically produced, and they're affecting the system, the body system. So and there are other ways as well. The landfills. Lagos is seriously considering shutting down the landfills.
I was going to talk about that, because I've had several people call me to say, it's terrible how these landfills are close to where people live, which is also a health hazard. But let's go back a little bit and talk about the strategies from the Ministry of Environment.
The Office of Ministry of Environment.
In collaboration with your office. I come from a state where one man made it happen, and people knew how to sort their waste. In fact, every single person got used to getting a bin bag, where you would take your bin bag out into the street and dump it where you're supposed to. You couldn't dump it on the street. You couldn't eat gala and throw it out of a moving car window. Donald Duke did it. And that was because there was some sort of orientation that had to happen before the huge hammer was let down on any other person. Is Lagos State doing that? Is there any strategy in that? Because you say, all I hear is that, oh, we're doing this. What about teaching people? Because I know we have a huge number of people in Lagos, but where are you starting from to educate people to even at least know how to sort their waste?
So when you say one man, there was a policy and there was serious enforcement, at that time.
But he had the willpower.
He had the willpower, right? And, as Lagos continue, you cannot compare the population that we have in Lagos now to what was at that time. Number one. Two, you cannot compare the level of inflation or the level of deprivation that is on the ground right now as to that time. But the reason why I'm saying this is because, having considered those factors that we have mentioned, that number one, Lagos is massively overpopulated, an average of about 3,000 economic migrants coming in on a daily basis, and they're not being captured in the tax bracket. They're in the informal setting, just trying to find something on their on their table on a daily basis. And then you have, these people trying to find something to do, but on the back end, governments is saying they have their constitutional rights. They are able to move anywhere they want. Okay, so on one end, orientation is key. But we've also been able to identify that if you're in a change management project or in a change management or change behavior situation, there are various indicators or various points, or what you call the phases, and also what will endear people. What is your strategy to endear people, to commit them into changing? And we have realized that when we're going about it the altruistic way and telling them about how they have to have a clean environment because it amounts to their health, having a sound mind and a sound health, it amounts to them being able to eat properly and all of that, it is not as strong as touching on the economic node. It's not as strong as touching the incentive that come with them changing their behavior or their attitude towards environmental behavior.
I'm tempted to ask what the incentive is, but we have to go on a break. In case you're just joining us for FM, you have questions, you got comments. We're talking about the environment, how it affects our climate and how it affects you. And of course, we've been talking about what Lagos State government is doing to make sure that they are also at par, of course, with the international community, as every single person is looking at a green economy and trying to save the earth. Anyway, before we went on that break, I wanted to ask a question about the banning of, the styrofoams. Lately, people have been sending us messages about the fact that there's no water in their area because you have banned sachet water. And so they have to, use the terrible water that they have in the area, maybe boil it and try to, or for those who can't afford the dispenser bottled waters, what do they do? Is this true? Have you banned?
Absolutely not.
So where's the story coming from?
So it's the interpretation of the message, right? The PET bottles are part of what has been that we have contextualized our own solution around our level of economic development.
Okay.
So for us in Nigeria or in Africa, it would be absurd to ban the things that people are finding affordable. The pure water, the one in the bottle and in the sachet, are the go-to water provisions. Do you understand? So
life-saving water.
It's the life-saving water. We cannot. It's not possible for the government to ban those. What we have banned is styrofoams, those plastic straws, and those heavy plastics that can easily block the usage. It's not, even the PET bottles are still allowable because we cannot do without that. We're not so industrialized that we would have big taps and fountains and, at every nooks and cranny and, borehole water or that sort of infrastructure that channels, water into every household. We're not that developed yet. So we need to curtail and define our own transition as just. As that's what they call the just transition, as it is applicable to our level of development, right? So our styrofoams, the straws, those little things that are effective in blocking drainages, those are the things that have been banned.
Lagos, I hope you have heard, so that you don't call me tomorrow and say, but she said that. They have, because there was a video that surfaced and Mr. Tokumbo Wahab had to respond to it about some guy, destroying a truckload of pure water, and then of course it was attributed to NAFDAC, and NAFDAC said it wasn't them. So of course there were some overzealous people who were taking it upon themselves to do this. But I want to bring Lagos into this because they need to ask you some questions, and then of course we can talk about solutions. I don't think today is enough. You need to come back. Would love to. You need to come back. Really great to come back again. I don't mind. You need to come again and again and again and again. Yes, climate literacy is on the top of our burner. Yes, I can make it a regular feature if you don't mind. I mean, because I think that we need to understand how serious what lies ahead of us is, and what earth we want to leave for our children. Absolutely. So if we don't make hay while the sun shines, then the sun will shine and it will be haze. 0201-277-0993. That's the number for you to call. 0201-277-0993. If you are female, 0201-465-7190. Send me a message on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. Send a WhatsApp message 0809597505. 60 seconds is all you have. Please call me back if that was you. If you have questions for my guests, go ahead and ask. Hello. Hello. Good evening, Mary Baby. Good afternoon. Go ahead. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Godwin, calling from Lakwe.
Go ahead.
I'm delighted to hear from your guest that issue of sachet water, which is the only affordable source of people with their family to drink today, that there is nothing like banning to that effect. I'm happy to hear that. Then, when we talk of the green environment or whatever, the situation, a man who dressed in a nice new suit with 3 parts on his leg, that person, you look at him, that something is wrong. Are you with me? I'm waiting for you to get to the point quickly. We don't have time. It's okay. We have a green environment, and we're talking of development and whatever. On the streets of Lagos, you see Agboro, you're doing all sorts of things to citizens of Lagos. Okay, all right. No. You're not getting. What is he doing? No. That doesn't concern her. Agbero is not her duty. Come on, you guys need to pay attention to the conversation. We're not talking about Agberos here. We're talking about the environment, not Agberos. She's not the SA to the governor on transportation. Please, that's not our job. So join the conversation if you have genuine questions about the environment, and don't forget. There's always environmental sanitation. And like I said, I was telling you off the microphone that there's some things that we see the people who clean the streets do, which is also not environmentally friendly. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Good evening.
Good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is one of the Golu.
Go ahead.
I want to ask the madam there concerning Dankara, the drainage here is not working at all. If you look at it, the whole pure water and the bottled water, they have covered the drainage there. And the sampling there is the one that caused that problem. It makes the water not to flow. What are they doing concerning that place? Because the building there, all the building wants to collapse. I don't know whether they are doing there or they are not. I want to hear from her.
All right, great.
All right, so he says it's the sand filling that is causing the blockage. I highly doubt it. If there's a sand filling and it is gone through the proper due diligence, I do not think that should be a problem. The primary fundamental problem of drainage blockage is in the waste. And he had said it himself, that bottles and sachets are all over the place. Now, concerning the question that you asked before we went on that break, we have begun to develop conversations around how you can generate economic benefits, generate revenue as a business and as a community, increase your income stream by responsibly disposing your waste or by collecting waste.
So waste management in general.
Yes, waste management. So in essence, the infrastructure and a model around incentivizing communities. Within our communities, there are institutions, there are businesses, there are ministries, there are agencies, right, who sit on various mandates or who sit on various deliverables that we can begin to establish some level of linkage so that when you want to dispose or when you feel that you want to be climate friendly, you want to be environmentally friendly, you can benefit from it. And those are the things that I really want to be able to express. For instance, in Jankara is a place, is a platform, is a playground for businesses. Commerce happens there. I will cite what had happened a few weeks ago at Trade Fair. So they just finished with a whole, like a 2-3 weeks of commercial venture. And we sensitized, we went ahead about a week before the execution, the fair started, sensitize the people and let them know that we will be coming from the Office of the Special Advisor on Climate Change and Circular Economy, and they should come with their waste. We said they should come with PET bottles, come with your plastic, come with your electronic waste, come with your textile. If you have cooking used oil, come with it, right? And for 5-6 days, back to back to back, people were coming in. They could not believe that they could actually come and deposit their waste and collect cash in return. They could not believe that they could come and they could have access to carry cards because of the partnership model that we have been able to establish. So we have partnered with the Ministry of Health, partnered with the Ministry of Transportation, partnered with the Ministry of Agriculture, such that the deliverables, what it is that they provide in service, can be in exchange, can be exchanged for waste as you desire. Social subsidies. We're working tirelessly and assiduously to get into the communities. The communities are the ones that need
I have to bring you back. We need to talk about this deliverables, the fact that people can make money off it, because you talked about incentives when we started this conversation, and that's a way to reel people in, because the average person is going to say, how am I going to be sorting through my waste? I mean,
it's because first and foremost it's the economic argument. We've realized that if we talk to you from a altruistic perspective, that you want to look good, you want to feel well, and that's why you need to clean your environment. The first question you want to ask me is that going to put food on my table? Do you understand? So if we angle it from the perspective of putting extra into your pocket, then we're going to catch your attention, and the word of mouth would move faster. Because you will tell the other person that you better start hoarding your waste. You better start, putting, what you generate, because there is no category of waste that there's no value upon right now.
Well, unfortunately, there's no time, and I want you back. Maybe in 2 weeks, if I'm not, I'm not overreaching. Yes, in 2 weeks, we have to talk more about this. This is going to be your sensitization platform. How can the average Lagos person key in to this thing that you're doing in order to deliver us of this waste? Well, Titilayo Oshodi is the special advisor to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on climate change and circular economy. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You're an amazing guest to have, but you need to come back again so that we can have Lagos people. They will drill you
again.
All right. Well, we'll take a break, Lagos. We'll be right back after these messages.